Kenyon in half.
Yes, sir.
All right.
A non-vote is a vote. My name is Kenyon Dixon. Voting is important to me because I understand the power of leadership. I think going through several different cycles of different presidential terms and learning as we go along, I've learned the power of not just voting in the general election, but also just civic engagement in general, getting involved in the community, because I believe that that is kind of where all of this starts. Everybody starts somewhere. You don't just shoot up to being president. So understanding what you're voting for, I think is also important, and then voting in favor of the change you want to see. I think that's something I've learned is extremely important. This election, I feel like we have quite a bit at stake. I think we're looking at just our fate here on earth changing as far as the leadership that we fall under. And so I think that has come from centuries of not understanding the importance of voting. And so I think now more than ever, it's time we actually pay attention to these things, because what we're seeing now is the byproducts of the attention we didn't pay to these things prior to now. To all of the youngins who don't vote, I think it's important to vote. Educating, I take that as my responsibility to the younger generation, because I know no one really encouraged me to vote. And I know because we're open to so much stuff, if we lack the understanding of it, it's a little harder, to the younger generation who don't vote. I would encourage just everybody to get into a little bit of research. And again, on a civic level and local government, I think starting there is kind of where you formulate knowing what's important and why voting is important, because it doesn't seem like anything that changes anything, but it's extremely important. A lot of these politicians come from the neighborhoods. That's where they start. A lot of them are our, kind of neighborhood officials, and then you look at like the DAs and just different LA County members who are kind of setting up shop for our potential presidential candidates. And so we don't look at that until it's too late, and the smaller people have already been put into office, and then we're just voting on representation versus an actual system. I think when you get into voting on a local level, that determines a lot, because that lets your local officials know what you're interested in. 3 specific issues that the next president will have to deal with. I think one main issue right now is just the racial climate, social injustice as it pertains to police brutality. I think more than ever, there's a lot of awareness being brought towards it, and just social injustices, period. Homelessness has also been something that has been brought to the mainstream a little more. The third, just environmental health in general. I think obviously we're seeing the effects of climate change and global warming just from not taking care of the earth the way that we should. My view on the state of the world currently is volatile, man. I have some days I have a tremendous amount of hope in humanity, and there are other days where I just see things that make me feel the polar opposite of how I feel those other days. And so, but I think what's happening right now, it's a learning experience. I think people are being tested based on what they need more of, which is something I've always believed when it comes to growth. And so one of the huge commonalities all across the board is compassion. I think we're learning how to relate to other people, which I think is important. I do believe we can see change in the immediate future. Change is also subjective, though. So I think we see change every day. I think we are making progress. I don't think it's consistent. And so I think that's where the subjectivism comes in, because it depends on how you see everything. But I do believe that it shouldn't deter anyone from putting effort into something, because I think back to my ancestors and slavery and Jim Crow era, just things that they dealt with, that they probably felt this same way, that it didn't seem like it was something that would affect the world. And so I think that change is inevitable. It has to happen. But the understanding of change is what makes it interesting. Biggest roadblock in minority communities that keep people from voting, I think lack of resources, I would say. And those resources, the span is crazy. One of the biggest ones, again, like I mentioned, a lot of majors, LA is one of the major cities or counties to not have a civic engagement office, which is unheard of because that's what gets people involved in, again, starting at the local level, those local elections and understanding, and it would broaden your understanding and strengthen it as far as knowing the voting system altogether.